I'm getting better. People are understanding what I have to say.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Namrata Mataji, kaise ho?
I'm good, Nataji. How are you doing?
Wonderful, wonderful. Good to see you.
Yeah, good. Same here.
That's great. So, we are going to get started. And I was just saying that if anybody has any questions from last week, I didn't hear anything, so I'm going to get started. And what I want to do is I just want to point out something, that Bhagavad Gita can be viewed in three parts. The first 6 chapters are the first part, 7 through 8 chapters are the middle part, and 13 through 18 are the last part. So basically chapters 7 through 12 give you the essence of Bhagavad Gita. And the other 12 chapters, the first 6 and the last 6, are like coverings for the middle 6 chapters. And Prabhupada writes that these 6 chapters, 7 through 12, are specially protected by the Lord. And he also adds that, he says, if one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad Gita, especially the, chapter 7 through 12, in the association of devotees, then his or her life at once becomes glorified. And he says, beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, and speculation, which means Bhakti Yogi is above Karmi, Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, Dhyan Yogi, and all this. Above everyone, which have been discussed in chapters 6 and 7. We discussed this point in great detail, but he's just re-emphasizing that those of us who are discussing and trying to understand Bhagavad Gita in the association of devotees, it simply implies that we have already gone through Karmi lifestyle and Karma Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, Jnana Yoga, etc. And he says the reason is that performance of Krishna consciousness gives us the results of all these other yogas. So Krishna consciousness is very, very important and very beneficial, and puts those of us who are practicing Krishna consciousness in a very special category. Okay. So takeaways from last chapter. Anybody remembers or wrote down any takeaways from last chapter? Chapter 7? What were some of the takeaways?
Hearing is most important.
Yes, it is. Yes, thank you.
Knowledge obtained from non-devotee leads doubt. It's not authentic.
Very good. Very good. Yes, very good.
And it's
What
not
else?
Krishna, because it's not Krishna conscious.
Correct. That is correct. Very good. What else?
Material energy is Maya. Marginal energy, which is in the living entity, which is soul, consists of 8 elements. Material energy:
Yes.
ether, air, earth, water, fire.
Mm-hmm.
Ether, air, earth, water, fire. Yeah, 5.
And the other 3?
Intelligence, ego,
Yeah,
false, mind.
Yes, very good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. What else? Any other
mind,
takeaways?
intelligence, false ego. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Maya or material energy cannot touch Krishna.
Very good. Yes, yes. Correct.
Marginal energy is superior to material energy, which is Maya.
Yes.
Living entity is same as Krishna in quality,
yes,
not quantity.
Very good. Yes.
Hearing is the first step. I guess it's the most crucial step.
Correct.
In Krishna consciousness.
Correct.
So we are different. We are same but different in quantity. Soul is important, actually.
Very good. Yes, absolutely. Soul is very important. Body is useless.
There is no truth superior than Krishna.
Yes, very good.
Yeah, and then there was one particular shlok that I really liked. That was like I am the taste of water and
Yes,
the
yes,
light of the sun, all that.
Heat in
yes.
the fire, right?
He's
Yeah.
providing evidence that he's everywhere.
Mm.
So actually, I was
Jiva.
going to ask you for those examples. That's very true. Yes.
There are three qualities of Paramatma: Sat
Huh?
Chit Anand.
That's for all of us, for Paramatma, Bhagwan, and Jiva. Like even the soul
Jivatma.
is Satchit Anand.
And the verse we did it, Krishna is an absolute truth.
Yes.
No truth is superior to him.
That's right. Verse number 7. From
Verse
that
number
chapter.
7. Verse 18 to 13. Krishna is everywhere.
Yes.
Krishna
that's
is
right.
above material manifestation. Through all manifestation comes from him.
All right. Very good. I'm impressed.
No, actually, last time I was not mentally available. So I just started writing things. Otherwise, I try to absorb mentally.
Oh, that's okay. That's great. That's great. What else?
Material energy is bigger than marginal energy. That's why normal human beings do not believe in him. We are superior to Maya, but we are superior to Maya, but Maya is bigger in size. That's why we get illusioned by Maya.
Correct.
Mode of material nature is mode of ignorance, goodness, passion.
Very good.
What else? 4 types of people that never surrenders to Krishna. Verse number 15. Modas, foolish people. Navada, lower.
Naradhamas.
Yeah. Those are the lowest mankind.
Lowest of mankind, yes.
Yeah. And the people who are happy in material world, but they don't recognize Krishna. And the other one was Maya. Maya,
Apaharita Gana.
Yeah. And the fourth one was like the atheists.
Correct.
Who consider Krishna as a myth.
Demoniac, yes.
Demoniac people, yeah.
Very good. I'm floored. I'm so impressed.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It's just all your knowledge you share.
I don't know.
And the Vedvyas, he wrote 10 Vedas and Puranas. 4 types of people who accept Krishna. Pious, Arat, they are regular. Some like being believe in when they are distressed or love to Krishna. Arthat, inquisitive. Arthati.
Yeah, inquisitive, that's third one, yeah.
Frustrated people in touch of desire of money. Gyanis, who want to explore knowledge, and those are the people are the philosopher and eventually become the devotees, and they become the best. They are the best, actually.
Yes.
And, chapter I have the this is only, and I've got something giveaway from chapter 3.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Let's finish 7. There was some talk about demigods also. Anybody remembers that?
Demigod and human. Arrangement between demigod and human being, wheel of sacrifice. I think.
No, that was chapter 3. In chapter 7, we talked about.
Demigods are motivated by material desire.
They are the
servants
in Krishna and the devotees.
I'm sorry?
They are the pathways, like they are in between.
Yes, they are. They're the managers, yeah.
They are the body. They are the body parts of Krishna. They are their servants. They're the
servants, yes.
Servants.
That's correct.
So they're like demigods. They are powerful, but are not equal to Krishna, or they are the servants of Krishna.
Correct. Very good. And it said that people of less intelligence go to them for material satisfaction.
For the immediate fulfillment of material desire, they go to the gods.
Correct. Very good.
So in my other class of I learned that they are the body parts of the Krishna.
Well, not body parts, part and parcel of Krishna. Just like we are.
Yeah.
Part and parcel. So are we. Actually, we are the ones who become demigods if you have only pious activities with desire for results. Then we become, I mean, demigods are like us, just more pious.
But they were in that yug, not Kali Yuga. They were
No,
in
no,
the
Kali Yuga also.
Satyug.
No, no,
Satyug.
Kali Yuga also. All yugas.
I have a question, Prabhuji, regarding demigod.
Sure.
Krishna has, before Krishna was born, there were many other janmas of his, what they say, like Rama and Venkateshwara, Balaji, and all were also, they also came to the earth in the form to help people. So they say that he is like one of the janma, like Dashavatars, they say. So are they also demigods only considered, or so
there are incarnations of Krishna who have all the same powers as Krishna. They're non-different from Krishna. They're called integrated expansions of Krishna. So Lord Balaram, Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu, Lord Ram, Lord Kurma, they're all non-different from Krishna, the same.
Chaitanya and Jagan.
Lord Chaitanya also same thing. Jagannath's not incarnation. Jagannath is Krishna himself. It's just a pastime of Krishna.
Pastime, yeah.
Okay. So on the other hand, demigods, human beings, they are separated expansions of Krishna. They're also expansions. We are also expansions. That's why we call part and parcel. But we are different, as we talked about quality and all the qualities, etc. In quantity, they are different.
okay.
Right?
Okay.
So demigods are servants. Now, it's interesting that even the other gods, like Lord Ramchandra, Lord Balaram, they're all known as servitor gods. In a way, they're all servants of Krishna. Krishna is the only boss. Everybody else is servant.
Prabhuji, Ramji was his pastime, one of the carnation. Is he
That's
not
correct.
equal?
He's equal, but the mood is still servitor because they're all expansions of Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram has the mood of a servant. So they carry that mood. There's no difference between them. Absolutely no difference. But the mood is different because they're expansions of Krishna.
Ramji.
Yeah, everybody. But don't get hung up on that. Ramchandra is not going and serving Krishna as such. There's no pastime where he does that. Right? So it's not that. Because remember, Krishna came later. Right? Krishna appeared 2 million years after Lord Ramchandra did. Okay? So I hope I didn't confuse anybody, but okay. So should we move on for chapter 8 now?
Sure, Prabhuji.
Okay. Now in chapter 8, Lord Krishna explains what happens at the moment of death. And he also talks about how one can fix his mind on Krishna's lotus feet at the moment of death. In other words, Krishna is explaining the art of dying, and interestingly, therefore, the art of living in this chapter. So let me repeat that. He's explaining the art of dying, but in the process, he's explaining the art of living. And we'll discuss how that happens in this chapter. Generally speaking, people don't like to talk about death. I mean, that's not the most pleasant topic. It's considered morbid to contemplate death. But nevertheless, it's a real situation. Yeah, sure, nobody wants to experience it, but everyone has to face it. It's like, if you take an example, just imagine you're going to watch a movie. I know most of you don't go to watch a movie, but just imagine that you go to watch a movie. And as you're going in the theater, somebody's coming out. Have you just watched that same movie? And he says, hey, you'll never guess what happens in this movie at the end. And before they finish the sentence, I think you're going to stop them and say, "Hey, whoa, I don't want to know. I want to watch the whole thing. Don't be no, don't spoil it for me. I want to see the whole film before I know the end." We use the term spoiler alert, I think. Right? That's the right term, right?
Yes, that's the right term.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Similarly, for those engaged in worldly pursuits, it's like the most karmi people we're talking about. Hearing about, contemplating about, or accepting, the end is not the most inspiring reflection for them. It simply spoils their movie of life. On the other hand, for a spiritualist, a devotee, the end is not a depressing thought, because the devotee's concept of life and its purpose is much broader. He knows for one who's born, death is certain. And for the one who dies, birth is simply around the corner, which is what Krishna said in chapter 2, text 47. So Arjuna is a spiritualist, he's a devotee, and he understands these things. So he's not afraid to discuss this topic. And he asks Krishna, right at the beginning of this chapter, how can one know you at the time of death? So Krishna explains, and it's in verse number 5. He says, those who remember God at death, they reach the kingdom of God. And the very next verse he says that one's state of mind at the time of death determines their next birth. So whatever we are thinking about at the moment of death determines the kind of birth we will get next time. You probably, I don't know if I want to get to that, but you probably have heard the name Jad Bharat. It's a very famous story from Srimad Bhagavatam where Bharat was a king. Actually, on his name is our country, India, named Bharat Varsha. He gave up his kingdom when he got old, became a devotee, dedicating all his time serving Krishna. But one day he saw a baby deer in distress. He picked him up and started taking care of him. And ultimately got so attached to the deer that when his moment of death came, he was thinking, oh my God, who's going to take care of my deer? Who's going to take care of my deer? As a result, he got birth in the next birth as a deer. So just to illustrate the point that Krishna is making. So then I have a question for you. So how does one control one's state of mind at the death? And do you agree with the people who say they can simply enjoy life now and remember Krishna at the moment of death and therefore go home back to Godhead? So what do you think?
Keep chanting and remember Krishna always in your mind.
Yes, absolutely. Practice, yeah. Practice. Right? Practice makes one perfect.
Yeah, chanting Maha Mantra actually.
I'm sorry?
Chanting Maha Mantra.
Yes, chanting Maha Mantra. That's what she was saying also. Yes, chanting Maha Mantra, absolutely. But all the time, right? Practicing to remember Krishna whenever we're in trouble. Right? Then there's a possibility. But to think that, oh, I can have all the fun now, then I'll simply remember him at the time of death, then everything is okay. It just won't happen because the mind is too disturbed. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So a person's thoughts at death, so whatever that person is going to be thinking about at the moment of death are a sum of their consciousness and aspirations that they have cultivated throughout their life. So you can think of death like a final exam which requires a lifetime of preparation. We cannot suddenly remember him at the time of death if we have spent a lifetime forgetting him, which is what most of us do. Whatever we have trained our mind to remember, in other words, whatever we have been attached to, whatever we have focused on and meditated upon all our life, is what we would remember at the time of death. It's almost like a reflex action because the mind is extremely disturbed at the time of death, as I was saying before. And it acts like it's in auto mode, it's an automatic gear. And that's why a very famous devotee by the name of King Kulshekhar has a very famous prayer. He's praying to the Lord and he says, please, my dear Lord, let me die immediately, like right now, this very instant, because at this time, my mind is still healthy. And when my death comes, I'll be able to fix my mind on your lotus feet. Otherwise, who knows what the state of my mind would be, how disturbed it would be, and I may or may not be able to remember you. So very important that our mind is trained to think of Krishna under all situations and all the time. Kirtaniya Sadahari. However, that doesn't mean we should give up our occupation or any, for that matter, any necessary daily activities. Krishna never advised Arjun to stop fighting. Rather, in verse 7 of this chapter, he tells Arjun to think of him all the time while fighting. So he didn't say, think about me and stop fighting, or go in a corner, sit there and chant my name. He said, no, keep fighting. Continue with your fighting. But while you're fighting, think of me all the time. And that's the most fundamental principle of devotional service, which is to perform our duties in life while thinking of Krishna. So what are we thinking about? It's like, this is Krishna's mercy. This is Krishna's plan. And he has entrusted me to execute his plan. And appreciating what a privilege it is to be in a position where we can execute Krishna's plan. And Krishna says, there's no doubt if you do that, having surrendered your mind and intelligence to me, this is Krishna speaking, then you will come to me. This is verse 7 again, second line of verse 7. He's saying, if you do that, which is think of me as you're doing your fighting, and you do this 24/7, like remember me all the time, then there's no doubt, I'm telling you, there's no doubt, having surrendered your mind and intelligence, you will come to me. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Imagine, Krishna is giving his guarantee. All you have to do is remember him all the time while performing your duties. That's all it takes. So easy. Always chanting Krishna's name leads to his constant remembrance. So, Kirtaniya Sadahari. Chant his name all the time, 24/7. And just imagine, if we leave our body chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Krishna is guaranteeing we'll certainly reach one of the spiritual planets, Vaikuntha Loka or Goloka, according to the mood of a practice. If we're practicing as pure devotee with no knowledge of Krishna being Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we go to Goloka. We serve him with the knowledge, his Supreme Personality of Godhead, with all the opulence, then we go to Vaikuntha Lokas. And we serve him in his Lord Narayan form. So a question for you. Who can predict when they will leave this body. Anybody here on this call?
Krishna.
No, among us, for yourself.
The people
Sorry, I
people
could hear.
who do lots of meditation, like making the mind, how do I explain, like with full concentration, like they keep their mind very focused to Krishna all the time, those people.
Sorry, who's speaking? I just say iPhone.
Anju.
Huh?
This is Anju.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Anju,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji. Sorry, I'm driving right now.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. Just wanted to know who it is. I can't recognize the voices yet.
I think
Yes.
no material body on this planet Earth can know when they're gonna end their life. I think especially right now with COVID, you don't know what's gonna happen. Only Krishna knows.
Correct.
So just like you're saying, every day chant and preach Krishna consciousness to yourself at least, because you never know when it's gonna happen.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So we cannot forecast. We cannot forecast. So the point of that is that it could happen anytime. The death could come to us anytime. And therefore, that's another reason why it's so important to remember Krishna all the time. Because we just don't know when the death will come. I mean, we know of people who are professional athletes, 20 years old, 22 years old, they just fall down and give up their body. And we know people who are 90 years old and still going strong. We just don't know. So therefore, we must be prepared for this eventuality of death at all times. We should live each day as if it's our last. Otherwise, we could become complacent, and that's the problem. We could become complacent and start confusing our longevity with immortality and forget the Lord.
Prabhuji, I read somewhere in Bhagavad Gita saying people who do like yogi, they can focus something when they're dying. Their body need to be either on the north side, daytime, these kind of stuff. It was written, I don't know which, but it's in this chapter though, somewhere. That's why I was saying about that. Those people, yogi, I think they can concentrate at the point when they want to leave the body.
So what you're talking about? No, so you're right. What you're talking about is some people have the mystic perfection of being able to leave their body whenever they want. But the point is that even they don't know when they would want to do that. Yes, they have the ability to do that whenever they want. And there are many stories like Bhishma Pitama, for example. He's one who had actually the benediction of what's called Ichha Mrityu, which is he can die whenever he wants. There's stories about other yogis, including Dhritarashtra for that matter. When they decided to give up their body, they were able to produce fire from within and thus burn their body and therefore leave the body. So yes, they can do that. But the question was, who can forecast? Yes, they have the power to do that whenever they want, but they're not sure when they would want to do that. Others don't even have that. Like people like us don't even have that. Okay, does that answer your question, Anjumata?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Thank you.
Sure, no worries. Hare Krishna. So the point I'm trying to make is that if we are aware of our mortality, that awareness itself is not morbid. Rather, it allows us to remember Krishna as our dear master and well-wishing friend. And as we know, constant remembrance of Krishna, Smaranam, is one of the 9 processes of devotional service, which if perfected will guarantee us a place in Golok Vrindavan. Krishna also advises Arjuna in verse number 14 that one who remembers him without deviation. By that I mean he never stops remembering Krishna. and he doesn't go to anybody else. So it's not like today is Surya Bhagwan, tomorrow is Vayu Bhagwan, day after is Gangaji, and then it's Deviji. Nothing like that. It's Krishna, exclusively Krishna, all the time. This is anybody who does that very easily obtains him because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Of course, talk about pure devotees, not otherwise, but pure devotees, because it's only them who can do that, that's constant remembering of him, without having any other desires. So the only desire is to serve Krishna, to please Krishna. There's no other desire. So that's the other kind of deviation Krishna is talking about. So those of us who remember him all the time without any desire other than serving him to please him, very easily obtain him. And Srila Prabhupada in his commentary, purport, gives a very nice example of a caterpillar that's constantly thinking about becoming a butterfly. And just from doing that, it actually transforms into a butterfly in the same life, not the next life, in the same life. Similarly, if we constantly think of Krishna, it is certain, guaranteed by Krishna himself, that at the end of our life, we will have a spiritual body like Krishna. In other words, we will be with Krishna, serving him 24/7. Now, I'm going to ask you, which one of you is feeling inspired to ensure to remember Krishna at the time of death? Anybody feeling inspired? Not talking about inspired to die, but inspired to say, yeah, I want to make sure I remember Krishna at that moment.
Yes, myself. I want to.
Sorry. Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Anybody else?
Even I want to.
I
Yes,
want to know, Prabhuji. I
Okay.
actually didn't know that before, that you have a choice to tell in the hospital that they can turn on the Maha Mantra in case you are not
Oh, yes, for sure.
anxious. So since the day I got to know this, I have already told my family that in case I don't know how I'm going to die, but if I'm in the hospital, in the unconscious or subconscious, so they will turn on the Maha Mantra for me. So I have already decided.
Good for you. Good for
Can
you.
I
That's
say
wonderful.
one thing about that though? I'm actually a doctor here working in New Jersey, and there's no visitors allowed in any COVID rooms, any ICU rooms. So although you can ask your family to do that for you, and that's great to have the mantra playing, you can't guarantee that. That's why I think Prabhuji is making the point of it has to be here in your conscious at all times. It can't just be played. It's great to have that, but just think of right now, it's not really realistic.
So Yashoda, they won't allow you to put the tape recorder there?
Not really. I've seen
really?
so many
Okay.
patients just passing away in the room by themselves with nobody by them because they're COVID positive. We don't want to expose ourselves, so no one even goes in the room. So, yeah.
Okay.
Even
Good to know.
if you request the hospital management, they can turn it on for you. No.
Depends where you live. I live in the US. I honestly doubt they'll do it here. I've seen Trump signs in hospital rooms, so I really doubt
Okay.
it.
All right. Okay. So, I mean, they did that for Bhakti Charu Swami, and so maybe special situations. But it's always a good idea to try that anyway, in case somebody agrees. So, but you're right, Yashoda, you're right, that it's better to have it, your mind trained. So you're thinking about this all the time, and then that's the best way. Okay, so the point is, I think everybody's saying, yes, they would want that. So then the question becomes, what are you willing to do that to ensure that you will remember Krishna at that time? What are you willing to do? Now, I'm not asking what you have to do. I'm asking you, what are you willing to do?
Chant. Think of him.
Okay, so are you all willing to chant?
Try to remember Krishna most of the time. Try to do as much seva for Krishna, so we keep ourselves engaged in Krishna service, so we can remember at the time of the death.
Okay, good enough. So is everybody chanting Krishna's name every day? Everyone?
Yes.
Any
Yes.
exceptions?
Yes.
Who's the exception?
Exception.
Oh,
We
okay.
do.
I'm just asking
No
everybody.
exception.
No exceptions?
No.
Okay. So I'm hoping that everybody's chanting. If there's, and there's no shame if you're not chanting and you need some beats, let me know. We can make some arrangements to ship you the beats for chanting. And you start with one round. That one round takes about 6-7 minutes. And so make commitment that I'm going to start and then I'm going to slowly build up to a minimum of 16 rounds. Similarly, you can, Hare Krishna Premji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I have got a question because
Yes,
every
sir.
time
Yes, sir.
you are saying and everybody says it takes 6 to 7 minutes. For me, it takes around 11 minutes.
Good for you. If
And
you can
I
do
do
that,
my best to minimize it, but still it is 11 to 12.
that's fine. Then 11-12 minutes. That's fine. Whatever
But
it takes you. So
how
I
people
hope
are able to do that so fast? I'm just trying to understand.
there's nothing to understand. Everybody has their own speed. Everybody has their own
So,
speed.
Hare
But are
Krishna
you,
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, just starting, same is mine is 12 minutes now, but now is 6 to 7 minutes. Just starting, don't worry about it. After that, one day, you are 6 and 7 minutes successful. Don't worry.
but
I'm still
also,
there after 2 years.
also know that it's not a competition. If 11 minutes feel comfortable for you, that's great. As long as you're able to do 16 rounds, it doesn't matter.
That's why I want to go higher and higher, but first I want to reduce it to 7, 8
No,
minutes.
so don't work on reducing the amount of time. Work at your speed. Work at your speed. That's very important. So my point simply was that we can talk all we want. That yes, we'll remember Krishna at the moment of death, but we have to practice, and it's not easy, especially if you're getting started. You have to first be convinced that that is the case, and then you have practice, and you have practiced that in the association of the devotees. On your own, it will be very difficult, and that's the point basically I'm trying to make. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. Association of the devotee is really, really important.
Yeah.
They, in my case, like I have certain devotees, she really pushes me, and I'm thankful. It's Janki ji,
I thought so.
Nandi Mukhi ji.
She's the best.
Yeah, she actually pushed me so hard that I'm like so glad now. I'm really thankful.
Wonderful. I'm glad to
It
acknowledge that.
happened with the devotees association.
Wonderful. So yes. So here's a practical example of what I'm saying. So very, very important that we do that, because on our own it's difficult, especially to get started. And then even if you get started, there's so many disturbances, so many other distractions that it becomes hard. But the point is that we are looking for a great reward, and we have to work hard for it. So we have to make a commitment. I also want to know, is everybody reading Bhagavad Gita regularly? Even one verse a day kind of thing?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Everybody?
Every day.
Okay, wonderful. I'm very happy to hear that, because that's also very important.
Thank you.
Okay. In verse 15 in this chapter, Krishna tells Arjun that having attained him, like having attained Krishna, no one returns to this temporary world which is full of miseries. In other words, anyone who's able to make it to the abode of Krishna, Golok Vrindavan, or the spiritual worlds, they never return to this world which is temporary and full of miseries. And it's because pure devotees who make it there, they consider Krishna's association, which is serving Krishna for his pleasure, as the highest perfection of life. And once having obtained it, they don't want anything else. That's it. So Krishna is saying that this world is full of miseries. Can you tell me the types of miseries in this material world? And I'm looking for the categories.
Old age, disease.
Okay, go ahead.
Old age, disease, Birth, coming back.
Birth, yeah, sure.
Birth.
Birth, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Birth, death, old age, disease.
Birth and death, yeah.
Okay, what
Yeah.
else?
Physical disabilities, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, physical stresses.
Yeah, what else? Physical, mental, both.
Mortal stresses,
Yeah.
yeah.
What else?
Attachment.
Yeah, attachment.
Okay, cause miseries. By itself, it's not misery, right? So I'm looking for things like miseries caused by demigods. Can you think of miseries caused by demigods?
I mentioned greed.
I'm sorry?
Greed? Being greedy?
Okay, that's also not misery. That's more of an anartha that causes miseries.
The calamities?
Natural disasters.
Yes, natural disaster. Exactly.
Calamities, yeah.
Yeah, natural calamities. Too much rain, no rain, too much heat, too much cold, tsunamis, earthquakes, those kind of things. Okay, and then there's one other kind of misery.
Desires is the biggest misery.
Now, once again, desires cause miseries. Desires by themselves are not miseries.
Yeah, but yeah.
No, that is the cause of misery. You have so
तीन तरह के
हाँ तीन तरह के होते हैं ना तो एक तो one is caused by other living entities, that's one. Second is your own body and mind, and third is caused by the
आदि
demigods.
भौतिक आदि दैविक और आदि दैहिक.
Correct. Who said that? Oh, good day. Okay, that's my sister in Lucknow. Okay, so yes, that's correct. Okay, let's move on. In the next verse, verse 16, Krishna now reminds Arjuna that everyone, no exceptions, everyone except those who attain the highest perfection, which is those who go to the abode of Krishna, they keep wandering from planet to planet to planet to planet in the material world. There are 14 planetary systems, of which Brahma Loka, where Lord Brahma resides, is the highest, and Patal Loka is the lowest. And there's 12 in between. But all of them are places of misery, where repeated birth and death take place. Obviously, those who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness, they go to the spiritual world. So they don't have to come back, but everybody else has to come back. Is that clear? Only those who make it to the spiritual world don't have to come back. Everybody else has to come back, keep repeating the cycle of birth and death. Only those who make it to the spiritual world, which is the pure devotees, they never have to take birth again, not forcibly. They can be advised by Krishna to do that. That's different, but they're not forced to take birth. Okay, so what I'm going to do?
Prabhuji?
Yes.
What is 14 types? Did you just say 14 types of what?
Planetary systems. In this material world, sorry, I should say one universe, there are 14 planetary systems. So Patal Lok is one, Sutal Lok is another one, Atal Lok is another one, Prithvi is, Bhulok is another one, Swar Lok is another one, so on and so forth. The different planetary systems. That's not one planet. So for example, Bhulok includes Mars and Jupiter, Saturn, all those kind of things. Earth includes all that. So planetary systems as a group, there's 14 of them, and it's like a stem of a lotus flower. The 14 planetary systems stay there, and Lord Brahma is sitting on top of the flower, the lotus flower. His is the highest.
And what are you said the 3 types of miseries? Adi, I couldn't get
Adi
it.
Bhautik, Adi Davik, and Adhyatmik.
Adhyatrik?
Yeah, Adhyatmik is mind and body. Adi Bhautik is caused by other living entities, like mosquitoes, bad neighbors, bad bosses. Right? And then Adi Davik is caused by the demigods, the natural disasters.
Adi Bhautik, right?
No, Adi Davik.
Adi Devik.
Devik, okay.
All right?
Devik Prokop कहते हैं इसको.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to show you how long one day of Brahma is. So give me a second. Okay. So you probably already know there are 4 yugas. And you have Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Satya Yuga, right? Can everyone see this?
Treta mein. Ram ji aaye the Treta mein.
The Treta, Satya Yuga, right? Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Kali Yuga has, the duration of Kali Yuga is 432,000 years, Earth years, of which only 5,000 have passed so far. So we have long ways to go. Dwapar has twice as many years as Kali Yuga, so 864. Treta has 3 times as many years as Kali Yuga.
Yes.
And Satya Yuga has 4 times as many years. So if you add them all up, you get 4.3 million Earth years. And that's called one cycle of all the yugas, or Chatur Yuga. Chatur means 4. These 4 yugas combined are duration of 4.32 million years. Okay? One day of Brahma, which means the 12-hour day, is 1,000 of these Chatur Yugas. Okay? So 4.3 million times 1,000 becomes 4.3 billion years. Everybody with me so far? I know a lot of people don't like math, but just so you get a feel for it. Is this confusing already?
No.
No? Okay. So that's 12 days, 12 hours of Brahma. And then he also has the same amount of night. So another 4.32 billion years of night. So you add them up, you get one full day, 24 hours of Brahma. So you add 4.3 to 4.3, you get 8.6, right? So 8.6 billion Earth years of in one day of Brahma. It's called Kalpa. One day of Brahma is called Kalpa, and Krishna appears once every day of Brahma. So Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago. Now it will be 8.6 billion years before he appears again as himself.
Yeah.
Everybody with me? Now Brahma lives, so 1 year of Brahma will be 360 times that number.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened here. Sorry.